Okay, welcome everyone to the August 25th, 2026 City Council Work Session meeting. Our meetings are public and you're welcome to join us in person or by watching from the council agenda page. You can watch in Zoom or YouTube. We hope you continue to join us in whichever manner you feel the most comfortable. This is a work session meeting during which there is not public comment. You can join us tonight at 7 p.m. for a formal meeting to share your comments. We, of course, are welcome public feedback anytime, and you can send us your feedback by mail at P.O. Box 145476, Salt Lake City, Utah 84114, by email also, council.comments@slc.gov, or you can call a 24-hour phone line, phone comment line at 801-535-7654. Comments we receive on agenda topics are shared with council members and posted in our website. You can visit that at slc.gov/council. Our first agenda item is an ordinance for a zoning map amendment at approximately 2025 and 2075 West, 2670 North, and 2620 North, 2200 West. We're going to welcome at the table Nick Tarvett, Council Deputy Director, Aaron Barlow, Senior Planner, and Alicia Seeley, Principal Planner. Nick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't repeat the address of where you just announced the rezone is going to be considered.
Thank you.
I will let you know the applicant is here. He would like to talk with you after the presentation from planning staff. And with that, I'll let you guys go.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. I am Alicia Seeley, and this is Aaron Barlow. We've been the planners processing this application. Again, this is for a zoning map amendment from AG2 agricultural zone to M1A, which is the North Point specific light industrial district.
Next slide, please.
Okay. This request includes 3 properties that you see up here on the screen. 2670 North, 2200 West is this long, skinny one on the west of this map, and then 2075 West, 2670 North, and 2025 West, 2670 North are east here, abutting the North 215 freeway. These 3 properties are all currently zoned AG2, which is agricultural, and the applicant is proposing to rezone them to M1A North Point Light Industrial, and these all fall in the North Point Small Area Plan. Next slide. Okay, the purpose of this rezone is for future light industrial use. There are no specific development plans or a specific tenant wishing to build on the site at this time. However, the planning staff is recommending approval with conditions, and then the Planning Commission recommended denial, which we will get into later in this presentation. Next slide. Okay, just to be really clear about what is here and what the proposal is. So the property facing 2200 West here, labeled A on this diagram, is currently a single-family home. The proposal would be to remove this home to provide access to the future development, so to provide an access road to the larger 2 properties and avoid using the 2670 North Road. And then B and C are very similar. There's nothing developed on these properties right now. They've been used as grazing pasture land previously, and these are both proposed as the future site for light industrial development. Next slide. Okay, as far as the neighborhood context, the surrounding properties are largely characterized by very low density residential development, and as well as agricultural uses. However, the site, broader site and broader neighborhood has a lot of new industrial uses coming in, such as the warehouse that you can see in some of these photos across 2200 West. Next slide. Okay, and the zoning district comparison, M1A has similar height requirements to the existing AG2 district. It has some additional design requirements, such as setting back new buildings in M1A from principal residential structures on abutting properties. There is no minimum lot width or size in the M1A district. There are some additional landscaping and tree planting requirements to mitigate the impacts of future light industrial use, as well as additional design standards. Next slide. And then M1A allows for quite a few additional uses that are not currently permitted in the AG2 zone. These are all detailed in the staff report, but some of the highlights are here, and mainly these are along the lines of light manufacturing, light industrial uses. Next slide. I won't spend a lot of time here, but the proposal to rezone these properties to M1A is in line with Plan Salt Lake and the North Point Small Area Plan, and planning staff's determination is that the proposal does comply with the goals of these plans. Next slide.
So like Alicia was saying, this proposal aligns with the plan, the North Point area plan, and specifically in the vision map, it calls for a transitional area here that has the diagonal hatched yellow lines on the map, an area that is meant to transition from the current agricultural uses to a more light industrial use that you see popping up in this area. And many of the properties in this area have already been rezoned to that light manufacturing zone. And the M1A zoning district was developed specifically for this area of the transition from ag to light industrial. Next slide, please. We did receive quite a few comments from the neighbors and the public. They were primarily concerned about the use of that 2670 North Street, which runs along the north part of this property. A lot of homes use it as their primary point of access. They're worried about noise, visual impacts, the typical things that come out of light industrial use. And the applicant took these comments and came forward with some ideas to kind of mitigate those things. So next slide. The applicant, with their community benefit, said, because we're worried, neighbors worried about noise, visual impacts, access, things like that, they proposed additional screening and mitigation beyond what is specifically required by the M1A zoning district because of this property's proximity to other residential uses. So that includes additional tree planting in the way that you can see illustrated there with the juniper trees, stone wall fencing along the property lines that are shared with residential uses. There would be no storage yards or parking areas near the neighboring houses. There would be a much larger gap than required by the M1A zoning district. And then there would be no access on that 2670 North Street, only on that strip of land that was purchased from a family that were actually going through the same process until they were approached by this applicant to rezone their property. Next slide, please. So at the Planning Commission, they forwarded a negative recommendation. The central concern, really the only concern, was regarding data centers that are permitted in this district. Data centers do have a few requirements within this M1A zoning district. They need to be in a closed loop cooling system. But if the council wishes to go a different way than the Planning Commission recommended, they are welcome to add a condition to prohibit data centers on the site. Next slide, please. So staff's recommendation, if the council does decide they do choose to approve this request, we ask that they keep the conditions that staff recommended to the Planning Commission, as well as that as an option, the data center prohibition as well. So the next slide, I believe that's the end of our presentation. And we're happy to go through things, but I think the applicant also wanted to present.
Councilmember Petro?
Are we going to hear from the developer too, or just
I mean,
just us?
we can. Do you have questions for the developer directly, or do you have?
No, mostly just comments. I had the chance to speak with this developer. Like planning told us this conforms with what we expect to happen, and the developer assured me not only are they asking for nothing that varies from the M1A zone that was innovated for the place out there. There's no riparian considerations because it's far enough away from there, so we don't have that element of concern. And when I spoke with the developer was able to tell me the name of not only the people from whom they bought the house, which was impressive, but then also the neighbors across the way, who are some of our neighbors who need the protection, who have lived through the hellscape that has been the development of the 1 million square foot warehouse out there. They were willing to concede additional protections in alignment with what that family preferred. So as we move forward on this, I'm finding it difficult to say you can't do what we told you we expected would be done with a developer that is willing to not only conform to what we said, but is willing to give us additional concessions, like formalizing that a data center will not be a use that is out there, even though, once again, letting our constituency know that is not a permitted use even in that zone, but they are willing. So I actually have to say this is a developer who seems incredibly responsive. I know we have a lot of people who show up for the shores of the lake, and I'm thankful for them. I have yet to hear the people who show up for the neighbors out there who have unique concerns, and having a developer that took it upon themselves to address the humans who live out there and not just the birds is really exciting to me, and I'm really, really glad to see this. I think there is no leeway on things like the tree buffers. There's no leeway on things like light mitigation, all of those other things that will protect the birds because our zone was designed to consider that. But this is actually a pretty high precedent, in addition to the fact that they're willing to give us concessions that we couldn't have foreseen needing to be explicitly stated when the zone was created.
Any other thoughts, council members? I would like to, I think as far as the data center technically being a thing that could happen in the site, I feel like I personally will like to prohibit that, even if the developer, it's not thinking about doing it. I think just for the sake of putting it on paper and writing, I think I would like to add that as a requirement that is not allowable.
And it was explicitly asked, and we can let the developer speak to it, but
Yeah.
this is a concession that the developer is willing to give us.
Yeah, and they don't have to give it to us, right? Like, we can actually require it, but it's very nice that they're willing to give it to us.
I'm not trying to
Yeah.
exercise our power. I'm saying we have a partner here who is doing in this space things that are not just being compelled, but this is someone who gives every appearance at this point to be honoring the spirit and the letter of our law.
Yes. I guess maybe that is a way to allow the developer for a few minutes tell us a little bit about the project. Maybe that sparks other questions, but maybe not. Make sure that the green light is on.
There you go. Green light was not on. I'm Dustin Cutler. I represent Lone Peak Lofts. It is my business, my partner and I's business, and we are the applicants/developers of this parcel. As far as the data center, I know had come up. I'm completely fine with any contingencies that you guys feel like are needed for that area to not allow data centers. I've built a number of smaller scale. One thing that doesn't show on these parcels is there's actually two 24-inch gas lines that go from Wyoming to California. They kind of cut that parcel in the middle. So it kind of creates two envelopes where a large building, we naively asked what it would cost to move those before we understood what they were, and the guy from Kern River laughed at us and he said, I don't know, maybe $15 to $20 million. And we're like, oh, these aren't your 1-inch gas lines that run to your house. That's where we kind of learned. So because of that, it doesn't suit itself to any large buildings really. So in my opinion, I don't know the data center market at all. It's nothing I've ever dealt with before, but I don't think that's an issue. I'm more than happy to, work with the city and say, yeah, that's not a thing that works in that area for me or any potential buyers or future developers or tenants for that matter.
Thank you. I mean, the technology is evolving so much, and it will continue to evolve. So I prefer to put it in the documents, so there are no allowable use. Any other thoughts, council members? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The staff said that this, there's no firm plan for this property right now. Do you have ideas?
So I actually I used ChatGPT the other day for the first time in my life. I did come up with some concepts. I thought I mailed them in, but I may have emailed them to the wrong. I didn't know who to send it. So I was telling Nick before this, my partner and I, we actually build small industrial buildings. We're completing one on the on-ramp of 5600 West and I-80 right now. So we have worked through the city process before. It was already zoned the right way, so I didn't come to this, you know what I mean? It was just a planning. But we specialize for the last 10 or 15 years, or I guess 12 years now, we build usually between 30 and 50,000 foot buildings, which to most people sounds big, but when it comes to industrial space is really small, right? And we usually split those into anywhere between 3 and 10,000 foot units. So we attract small businesses. The stuff right now we're building out by the airport, we have as small as 4,000 to as large as 9. We have a few signed leases. That building's not yet complete, but we've signed some leases. One of them is Snap-on Tools Corporate, who provides automotive working tools. And I think it's just a warehouse for their local guys to come pick up tools. One of them's a soil test company that does soil testing for the state. They leased a 4,000 foot unit. So we usually attract smaller businesses across our whole, anything we've ever built. We've only ever had one that was actually a manufacturer. It's a building down in Linden. One company bought the entire building from us, and they do all your kind of special duct work. They're one of the few manufacturers in this state that actually builds commercial duct work. But outside that, we get our stuff in Pleasant Grove, attracts dance studios, some online retailers, a gym. This particular area probably wouldn't attract that, of course, because there's no population base around, right? But most of what we target is small businesses. What we had kind of planned, and if we still, our hope is to end up owning one of the building envelopes. There's 3 possible building envelopes. Our hope is to kind of sell 2 off and build one, and it would probably be a 20 to 30,000 foot building, primarily targeted like 3 to 4,000 foot units for local contractors, and we'd probably sell half and keep half. So if we were the developers, we'd bring a condo plat in over our particular building. So we do part of the small, I guess the community benefit was hoping to work with small businesses. We of course can't commit to that because, like I was telling Nick beforehand, this is a bigger project than we can afford to do, quite honestly. So at this point, we're looking to kind of get the rezone done, probably start to work through the engineering and site plan and all that other items once we know the zoning's right. If somebody comes along and buys it, we'll exit, but they'll understand. Part of our agreement with the community was that the fencing and the trees are being locked in as part of the rezone. And part of that was to make our neighbor across the street, Mr. Taylor, happy. I approached kind of all my neighbors there. There's a few guys that own some parcels to the north of that small road, 2670, and they were trying to work with me because they would like to access their property. Unfortunately, they don't really have access to their parcels back there. I contacted all the neighbors, and they're just not interested in a change to that road, so I went ahead and bought the Thompson property to provide access back here. So,
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I would support prohibition of data centers on that site.
Okay.
Thank you.
It seems like we are good. I appreciate the information you share with us. Thank you. I think that sort of gives the direction on where we are headed.
Could we just get confirmation? I think we're there, but a quick straw poll on whether or not you would like to include the prohibition on data centers as a condition in the rezone?
Sure. Let's show your feelings on that, council members. Okay.
Okay, we'll make
Unanimous.
that change to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a zoning map amendment and general plan amendment at approximately 1990 and 2002 South, 500 East. We're gonna welcome Allison Rowland, Council Policy Analyst at the table, and Cassie Younger, Senior Planner, and Kelsey Lindquist, Planning Manager, maybe. Oh, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a request for a zoning map and general plan amendment at 1990 South, 500 East, and 2002 South, 500 East in the Liberty Wells neighborhood. The applicant, Castlewood Development, has proposed 22 for sale townhomes, each with 3 stories, including 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, and a 2-car garage. The requested changes would rezone the property from single-family residential to moderate-density multifamily residential and require a general plan amendment to the central community future land use map from low-density residential to medium-density residential. The Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend the council approve these changes with a development agreement, and commenters at the Planning Commission hearing expressed concerns about the height of the buildings, the density or number of units that are included, and the loss of available parking in the area. The public hearing is scheduled for September 15th with potential council action on September 22nd, and the applicant is here if you end up with any questions after Cassie's presentation.
Thanks. I think this is the applicant's presentation.
Scott, could we go to the next presentation? Scott, could we go to the next presentation?
Okay. I'll get started while they're bringing that up. Sorry about that. My name is Cassie Younger, and I'm presenting the Wells on Fifth rezone. So as Allison mentioned, this request is for a zoning map and general plan amendment at 1990 and 2002 South 500 East. The current zoning is R1 5000 and is proposed to be changed to RMF 35, which is a moderate density multifamily residential. This also requires an amendment to the Central Community Plan future land use map from low density residential to medium density residential. The subject property is 1.03 acres and has 3 frontages along 500 East, Hollywood, and Redondo Ave. It was previously the historic Wells Ward Meeting House, which burned down in 2024 and has been vacant ever since. This property lies within the Liberty neighborhood, about a mile west of Sugar House downtown. The site is 1 block north of 2100 South, which is zoned primarily MU3, and has a variety of small businesses and townhomes. And while the blocks north are generally R1 5000, there are some pockets of RMF 35 nearby, like the Senior Living Center to the north and a recently rezoned Sears site on 400 East. This site has a variety of transit options close by, with a UTA bus stop 1 block north and an S-Line station 0.3 miles south. The proposed development offers 22 townhomes, each with 4 bedrooms and 3.5 baths. Each unit has a 2-car garage, and the site offers 8 guest parking stalls on site. The site plan proposes over 12,000 square feet of open space, including a playground amenity. And while the RMF 35 zone allows up to 35 feet in height, the development is proposing to cap it at 30 feet. The community benefit offered is that all of these are family-sized units with over 3 beds and 3 baths, and these units will all be offered for sale. The open space is over 3 times the required amount for this development, and the open space is mostly contiguous with over 3,000 square feet for a playground. And the applicant has offered to integrate an educational component to the play area. The educational component was inspired by a nonprofit group called Playful Learning Landscapes, which helps developers and cities install educational, engaging playscapes for children in private and public spaces. And these can be as simple as a mural or a painted bench, or as complex as an entire play installation, all of which would promote engagement and interaction between children and their caregivers. So in the slide, I have a table that compares the existing zones with the proposed RMF 35 zone. Is there a way to connect my own computer in a way?
That, I don't know. I just sent it to Scott.
Okay.
See if you can get it.
So the table will show the comparison and versus the proposed projects. So they aren't proposing to build to the maximum height or density that the RMF 35 zone would allow. The RMF 35 zone would allow up to 59 lots with the minimum lot size requirement, but the applicant is only proposing 22. And so many aspects of the proposed development actually comply with the RMF 30 zone, which is our low-density multifamily residential zone, including the density of 22 units with a height cap of 30 feet. So the applicant is requesting the RMF 35 zone instead because of the smaller front yard requirements. So this allows to keep the majority of their open space within the interior of the site plan, within the greenways and playground amenity, instead of accommodating those larger front setbacks. And so the applicant received a lot of public feedback on their project and revised their design to accommodate some of these concerns, including decreasing the number of units from 24 to 22, and adding guest parking stalls, and increasing the setbacks along Redondo and Hollywood from 10 feet to 13 and 14. Yeah, so if you just want to go through and we can bring up those tables. Yeah, so here's the current zone, R1 5000, the RMF 35 zone, and the proposed project. So like I said, they're going under the height and the density for what is allowed in the RMF 35 zone. Next slide, please. And this is comparing it with the RMF 30 zone, which is our low-density multifamily residential. So it complies with almost all of those development standards, except for the front yards. Okay, and then next slide. It made some accommodations, as mentioned, based on public feedback, like decreasing the number of units, increasing front yards, and adding guest parking. Next slide. And then on June 24th, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward a positive recommendation to the City Council with the listed conditions. Next slide.
Thank you. Council members? Councilmember Carlson?
I saw that it's anticipated that these would be for sale units. Do we have a sense of what the price might be for these for sale units?
The applicant has indicated that they would be market rate, and I believe the range was around $590 or so, but she is also here to present and can be more specific in that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that maybe we should give a few minutes to the applicant.
Who
Okay.
also has a PowerPoint we
Yes.
can go through, and maybe it'll help us track visually while she presents.
And as she comes up, I want to apologize to Cassie and to all of you. It looks like I sent the other presentations. I didn't send this one, so sorry about that.
Welcome to the applicant. Make sure that the green light is on the microphone, and give us a short presentation.
Thank you for your time today. My name is Haley Pratt, and I'm a partner at Castlewood Development. We are the developer and builder of the site. When approaching this site, we paid a lot of attention. We knew that we liked the location, we liked the proximity to transit, we loved the proximity to the commercial services, and the fact that it was already a vacant site, there was no displacement. But we did understand that one of the key factors was making sure that we approached the site and the site design so that it was contextually appropriate. So even before I dive into the site plan, one thing that we tried to do was even orient the way that the townhomes laid out on the site, so that it's side The side facade is adjacent to the side facade of the adjacent homes. And so there were a lot of design elements that we approached with the site that was trying to keep in mind just that this is a neighborhood and that we need to respect those residents. So, oh, next slide. Thank you. And then this is just hitting on the fact that we're providing missing middle housing within the Liberty Wells neighborhood. And next slide. This gives an idea of our floor plans. Like Cassie mentioned, the family-oriented development was a key consideration. On the third floor, we have 3 bedrooms to cater to the family dynamic. So anyone with children, they would be on the same level. And then we do have a 4th bedroom on the first floor. Next one. Next slide, please. Thank you. An illustrative site plan showing the landscape layout. Like Cassie mentioned, we're 3 times over the open space that's required in the zone. Next slide. And we are going to be incorporating some sort of educational component into the play area. Again, hitting on the fact that we're trying to attract families in this community. Next slide. Now, the community, we've had multiple conversations with the community, and some of them were not easy, and we've tried to accommodate as much as possible ways to alleviate any sort of negative impact on the residents. And 3 themes that we heard were density, building scale and height, and parking. The way that we addressed that was, next slide, we dropped unit count. Pretty straightforward. You can see the old plan and then the revised plan. Next slide. Another factor was the scale and height, and we addressed this in a few ways. The first being we increased the front setback to 13 feet. Next slide. Oh, actually, can we go back one? It also, oh, well, next slide, sorry, I think it's later on. And as you can see in this exhibit, it's just a general schematic showing that the 13 feet is not out of neighborhood character. It's generally in line with what a lot of the existing homes are, what you see along those frontages. So, next slide. Height and scale. We've committed to keeping it to 30 feet. Even though the rezone would allow up to 35. The adjacent zone, I believe, allows up to 28 feet. So it's a comparable height step up. And I acknowledge it's a step up, but we're trying to be gentle about it. Next slide. We have also significantly increased the western setback. So the property boundary that we're actually sharing with existing single-family homes, we've increased that side setback substantially. To try and alleviate any sort of, people brought up shade on their garden and things like that in the rear yards. Next slide. Parking. We have added 8 guest parking stalls on the site, and so our parking ratio is 2.36 stalls per townhome, which is substantial and something that we wouldn't anticipate there being much spillover parking within the neighborhood. Next slide. And that's it. Our target is families. We're excited about this project, excited about the site, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Council members? Councilmember Carlson?
I don't think I have any additional questions. I've had an opportunity to connect with the developer and connect with community members who are concerned about this development. I imagine we'll hear some more about their concerns about the development, but I do want to acknowledge the developer for making adjustments to the plan that were in direct response to some of the community input. And even some of the community residents said, we felt very heard by the developer, even if they might not overall agree with the overall direction of the development. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see that your plans talk about 10,000 square feet of open space. which I think it's going to be a great amenity for the residents there. But on the consideration that we have quite every day in this council related to water, I would like to know how much of that is going to be grass. And, do you have any idea?
So I don't have a detailed landscape plan at this point. We typically don't do large sod or turf areas unless it's a dedicated play area. So most of it would be perennial plantings around the play area. Now, if as we're playing around with it, we decide we want to set aside, a pet relief area or, something else that would be well suited for sod, we would do that. But otherwise, it would be a water-wise landscape design.
I think I would prefer if we put that in part as part of the agreement, that that you commit into water-wise plantings. We have done it in other projects in the past, and it's sort of it should be percolating in all the projects moving forward, in my opinion. I think based on the renderings you showed, it seems like you are going to do it right already from the beginning. But I feel like that, in my mind, should be part of the requirement moving forward. I don't know if other council members feel like that's important too. Any other thoughts? Oh no, we're good?
And we'd be happy to commit to the water-wise component.
Okay, that makes it easier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to an ordinance related to the alley vacation at approximately 750 South Main Street. This is item number 3. We're going to welcome at the table Michael Sanders, Council Policy Analyst, and Kins Lindquist is going to stay at the table, our planning manager. Also, we have the applicant, representatives for the applicant here at the table. So yes, Michael.
Thank you, Council. So Intermountain Health has submitted an application requesting that the city vacate a publicly owned alley adjacent to properties at 750 South Main Street, 778 South Main Street, 16 West 800 South, and 755 South Richard Street. Vacating the alley would support a future off-site parking structure with an accompanying sky bridge to Intermountain Health's planned hospital east of Main Street. Please note that this is the first alley vacation which has been through the new alley vacation process adopted in March of this year that allows in certain circumstances for alley vacations to not go through the planning commission process, but rather come to the council following an analysis of certain criteria and receiving a recommendation from the planning director. The planning director has forwarded a positive recommendation that the council approve the alley vacation.
Thank you, Michael. Next slide. All right, as Michael mentioned, this is a request from Intermountain Health to vacate an existing alley approximately located at 750 South Main. The alley runs south to north from 800 South between Richard Street and Main Street. The planning director forwarded a positive recommendation to the city council. Next slide. The northern portion of the subject alley was previously vacated between 1981 and 1999. The alley is currently used as a drive aisle and parking for Ken Garf and the abutting auto body shop, which is shown in the photo. The purpose of the vacation is to consolidate the sites from 4 parcels into 2 so that Intermountain Health can build a parking structure on the northern parcel. Ken Garf does intend to expand and reconfigure the existing non-complying parking lot on the southern parcel. Next slide. So under the new review process, there are factors of review, and the requested alley vacation does not comply with one, and that is the lack of use. The alley is open and exists for the purpose of providing access to the site from 800 South. The parking lot use of the alley is relatively new, replacing an Wells Fargo building that was demolished in 2021. And the alleyway and the parking lot are separated by a fence. With that said, the requested alley vacation does meet the additional factors of review. So for public safety, it would not inhibit emergency access or existing proposed structures. The existence of the public way is not tied to increased crime, unsafe conditions, public health problems, or blight. And the alley is currently maintained by Ken Garf and is visually part of their property. The community purpose. The purpose of vacating the alley is to consolidate the 4 parcels for the redevelopment of the property just east of the site into a hospital. And the hospital use serves an important community purpose and cannot function without sufficient parking. Impact on general plan. The proposed vacation satisfies the standards of the adopted general plan by protecting current and future infrastructure, circulation, and connectivity. Impact to the property. The proposed vacation will not result in a parcel or lot being deprived of access or landlocked. Public utilities. The public way is not considered essential for the location of future public utilities. And it is not required for access to public utility infrastructure. And then the requested dimensions for the vacation is approximately 2,042 square feet. The measures about 8.25 feet wide by 248 feet long. Next slide, please. And as mentioned earlier, the planning director recommended that the city council approve this request. I can answer any questions at this time, and a representative from IH is here to answer any questions as well.
Council members?
Oh, and you have a presentation, right?
I do, yeah, if that's okay.
Yeah.
It's brief.
We'll give you the time. Let's see, we're waiting for your presentation to populate. And you can say next slide when you're ready for the next slide.
Perfect, yeah. Well, good afternoon, council. My name is Chad Moynihan. I'm here representing Intermountain Health to discuss the alley vacation. Next slide, please. As has been shared previously by the planning team, this is the northwest corner of 800 South and Main Street. The alley itself is represented there by the red bar, which comes up from 800 South into kind of the middle of the property. It's landlocked actually by 4 different parcels that have shared ownership between Intermountain and Ken Garf, which I'll share on the next slide, please. So just some detail regarding the parcels, but that's the survey of the site there on the right-hand side. A little difficult to see, sorry, it's small. But you can see the parking lot owned by Ken Garf, which is represented as parcel 4 there on the bottom right-hand side. The auto body shop on the left-hand side, and then there's a parcel 1 at the very top of the plan. Which is an Intermountain-owned site currently being occupied by Hertz Rent-A-Car. And then in between on the left-hand side, there's also another Ken Garf parcel. So it's a kind of a mix of a few different parcels. There's 5 in total, including the alley. And as was mentioned, the alleyway is a little over 2,000 square feet. Next slide, please. So this is the proposed final parcel orientation for the site. Again, just trying to sort of assemble these lots so it's a little more logical, a little more workable for the owners. But the intent here is to vacate the alleyway. As was referenced, it's very narrow, between 8 and 10 feet wide and a little over 200 feet in length. There's not a whole lot of potential use cases for that site, but the vacation of the alley does give both Intermountain and Garf an opportunity to reorient the parcel into 2 as opposed to 5 future parcels, 1 on the north side, which is represented as parcel 1 there, and 1 on the south side, represented as parcel 2. Intermountain would be the northernmost parcel, and Garf would be the southernmost parcel. And again, the intent is to maintain, at least for Garf, a consistent use with what they're doing today, which is overflow for the adjacent car dealership, and for Intermountain, as was referenced previous, a multi-story parking garage with street activation that will serve the larger Sears block to the east of Main Street. And
that was actually short. Amazing. That was short.
Yeah, well, I didn't have as much content as everybody else. It's relatively simple compared to some of the other ones.
Any thoughts? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. this is probably for planning staff. I'm wondering how many of these sky bridges we have in the city. Do they present any safety issues?
Did you say sky bridges in the city?
Skybridge.
There is a proposed sky bridge that would be coming to the council in the future, but it is not part of the current alley vacation request.
I guess to this question though, is maybe to the applicant, is the Sky Bridge still part of your plan?
Yes, that's what we would like to do, correct.
And to me, I feel like I would like to discuss the alley vacation in context of that, because the sky bridges have history in Salt Lake, or a few of them, or the one. And I feel like it will be good for us to put it all together, to present it to the community. There's a lot of opinions out there about sky bridges.
Sure.
So I personally would like to, are you guys soon going to start presenting do you know if there is a timeline for the sky bridge to come through the city?
Yeah. So with respect to the Sky Bridge, a little different process than the alley vacation, but I think where we ultimately landed with planning in the city's attorney's office was a easement that would be for the Sky Bridge, and then that would be accompanied by a full set of plans that would detail essentially where the Sky Bridge would connect, what it would look like, all the architecture and engineering details behind it, that would follow in a subsequent agreement after the alley. Once we vacate the alley, just procedurally, we would need to reorient the lot and pursue a development agreement that would be associated with the parking, surface parking and the parking structure itself, and then there would be a subsequent application, is our understanding, and conversations with planning that would be for the Sky Bridge itself.
Okay, I think that just to tie those two together will be very beneficial to me. But I have no big concerns about another alley vacation. I do want to say, I went and toured LDS yesterday, the hospital, and the HC team was great in showing us what they do. I'm excited to see some of those things being in a modern building downtown, some of those services being in downtown. I think that it's going to be a big deal. I also, many of us received a letter today from the county council and the county mayor asking us to all be on the table to talk about mental health services and behavioral health services. So maybe during this time and this few weeks, we can unlock some more conversations about what everybody's doing and how we can all pitch in into the work that and highlight the work that you guys do too. So I'm hoping that buys us some time to discuss some of those other conversations. And I will. I think I forwarded the letter to all of you. When I received it like an hour ago. So that's all I have right now. Any other thoughts?
If I may just clarify on the types of applications that will be coming forward, IH needs to submit a text amendment to enter into a new development agreement for the parking structure that is off-site, and that would needs to accompany a general plan amendment as well for the Sky Bridge. So both of those are legislative and would be coming back to the council.
Okay, thank you. That's the timeline is great, and certainly I think time is of the essence. I'm sure. So presenting the documents through the city and going through the process to make sure that it makes it here fast, it will be ideal. So thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Likewise. Thank you all.
Thanks. Sorry.
You are our guest, famous speaker today. Item number 4 is an alley vacation near 2553 South Chadwick Street. Kelsey Lindquist at the table, a planning manager, and then Austin Kimmel, council policy analyst, is going to give us a short introduction.
Great, thanks, council members. This is a proposal to vacate 2 portions of public alleyway near 2553 South Chadwick Street in District 7. Those alleyway portions are first a 262-foot alley running east to west from Chadwick Street to Dearborn Street. The second is a 51-foot alley between the two streets running north to south. The applicants request the alleyway vacation to build a larger detached garage, replacing a smaller one at the rear of the property. The Planning Commission discussed and forwarded a positive recommendation for the proposed alleyway vacation to the City Council during its April 22nd meeting. And with that, I will turn it over to Kelsey.
All right, next slide, please. All right, as Austin mentioned, this is a request from the property owners located at 2553 Chadwick to vacate two portions of two public alleyways due to lack of use. The applicant's property is identified in yellow on the screen, and the two sections of the alleyways are identified in blue. The east-west portion, which is light blue, runs along about 6 properties and is approximately 12 feet wide by 262 feet long. And the north-south alleyway, identified in dark blue, runs along 2 properties and is approximately 12 by 51 feet long. If the alleyways are vacated, the alleys would be divided and allocated to the property owners abutting the vacated portions. Next slide, please. The east-west alleyway vacation includes the entirety of that section. The north-south is just a portion of the entire alleyway, which is illustrated on the screen. It's important to note that several accessory structures currently block access through these sections of alleyways, which can be seen in these aerials. Next slide. Historic aerials illustrate the same lack of use and restricted access. Next slide. This is a photo from Chadwick Street to illustrate the lack of use. Next slide, please. And a photo from Dearborn, same illustration. Next slide. The requested alley vacations comply with the applicable standards that address lack of use. The alley has essentially been materially blocked, which has rendered it unusable. Next slide. And the Planning Commission forwarded a positive recommendation to the City Council. I do believe the applicants are here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council members, let's welcome the applicant then. Do you have a, yeah, come to the table, join. Do you have a presentation, or are you here for answering questions?
Oh, I'm the property owner.
Yes, do you have a presentation, or?
Oh, sorry, I don't have a presentation. Okay. Can I just say a few things?
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Young.
Yeah, thank you. So it's been fun. This particular item was like entertaining because I got to participate both as a council member, but also as a neighbor. So I got one of the notices from our planning department saying this is happening in your neighborhood. And like, if you want to give input to the planning commission. And I was like, I do. And so anyway, I just appreciate the thoroughness and also the professionalism of my neighbors in terms of working hand in hand with the city to be able to get this resolved. It has long been an outstanding, unusable alley. And by moving this forward, it not only benefits this particular homeowner, but the homeowners around related to the maintenance of many of their existing structures, garages, et cetera. So full support, and just thank you for your engagement with the city.
Thank you.
Thank you for switching hats there from a neighbor to a council member and back and forth. Any other thoughts? Okay, it seems like it's pretty straightforward. It seems like we thank you for the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 5. It's a resolution, building fee waiver for Ivory Innovations development at approximately 707 South, 400 East. We're gonna welcome Allison Rowland, Council Policy Analyst, Tammy Hanseker, maybe not, Mike Ackerlow, Deputy Director of Community Services, and Juliana Landis, Community CAN Management Analyst.
Hi,
Alison.
again. Yes, Tammy had a family issue come up, so she isn't able to be here today. This item is a request from Ivory Innovations, a nonprofit organization, for a building permit fee waiver for some of the units in a new housing development on 707 South, 400 East. The development includes 66 new rental housing units, of which 50 would be offered at or below 80% of AMI for 15 years. City policy allows building permit fee waivers to be granted by the council to a nonprofit organization that develops housing priced at or below 80% of AMI. The ordinance requires an informal public hearing and that the director can decide whether or not to recommend that the council adopt the request. The project was found eligible for a waiver of 75% of the building fees, which amounts to about $150,000. No additional public hearing is required for this item, and potential action is scheduled for September 15th. I will turn it over to Juliana or Mike.
I'm going to step in real quick just to introduce this project and highlight it as a great example of the private sector coming together and through a nonprofit building affordable housing in our community without any government funding. Call to Action is a foundation started by Maverick, and they partnered with Ivory Innovations to build these rental units. And I think it's just it's important to highlight that they have not used any city funding or other government funding, have not used the tax credits, which is a very competitive source. So it's nice to see this kind of development happening within our communities. This is also a great example of adaptive reuse of an existing building and new construction to bring affordable housing. And I want to introduce Juliana. She is new to the city, working in housing and housing stability as the compliance analyst, and is looking at all things impact fees and building permit fees regarding affordable housing. So I'll turn it over to her.
Thanks, Mike. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so first I'll just talk a bit about the code and the process that we've gone through so far. So Salt Lake City Code 1820-220 states that nonprofit organizations may petition Salt Lake City to waive or defer fees for the development of affordable housing. And currently the first step in the process is housing stability staff. So me and my team will request information from the developer to verify that they're eligible under the code for these waivers. Then an informal public meeting was held on January 14th for this project for the CAN director to review the application, allow for questions from the applicant. And then from there, Housing Stability worked with the developer and the attorney's office to negotiate a restrictive use agreement, which we would then sign and record if the waiver is approved. So as of July, the CAN director has recommended that this fee waiver be approved. And then the fee waiver ordinance states that the director's recommendation will be made to City Council for you all to hear. And then just a note on sort of that administrative process, there are updates to 1820-220 in the works with the goal to sort of shift this process to align a bit better with the current process that is administrative for impact fee exemptions, where the CAN director has authority to just approve them, and we wouldn't need to involve council going forward. Then we can go to the next slide, please. So now for more specifics on this project. This project is Innovation Park at Liberty Wells at 707 South, 400 East. Like Allison already said, it's 66 units in total. 30 units are being restricted at 60% AMI, and 20 units are being restricted at 80% AMI. The term of the restrictive use agreement would be for 15 years once it's signed and recorded. Since 75% of the units would be affordable at or below 80% AMI, the project is eligible for a waiver of 75% of the building permit fees, which is estimated to be about $150,000. And then just a note is $106,500 in impact fees were previously waived for those 30 units that are affordable at 60% AMI. The project is well on its way. It's expected to be completed next month in September. And the project is being developed by Ivory Innovations, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. On the next slide, we have some renderings of what the project is expected to look like. It looks pretty similar to this if you go by it right now. And then the next slide shows sort of a site plan view where you can see that adaptive reuse component that Mike mentioned. That portion is 30 apartment units, 27 one-bedrooms, and 3 two-bedrooms. And then in the blue box are the townhome section. It's 36 townhomes, 22 bedroom, and 16 three-bedroom. That's all I have for you. If you do have any questions, I think the applicant was planning on coming. Oh yes, applicant's here if you have questions more about site specifics or the development, or we can take other questions.
Initial thoughts, council members? Or we invite the applicant then to the table? Yes, do you have a presentation or are you just here to answer questions?
No, I'm just here to answer questions if you have any.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, it seems like you, Chris? Okay. No, I think like we're good. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to put it on your spot. So council members, we have a tentative break right now. And technically we're supposed to be back at 4, but I think, do you think there is a possibility to try to get some of these items to move a little ahead of time? Okay, let's take a 20-minute break and let's see how far we get. So let's meet here at 3:25. Welcome back to the council work session. We are now in item number 7. This is an ordinance for the administrative organization text amendments for public services. We're going to welcome Kate Warrett, council policy analyst at the table, and then Jorge Chamorro, maybe. Oh no, he's here, of course. Director of Public Services. Kate.
Great, thank you. Public Services has requested text amendments to Title II of the Salt Lake City Code. The proposal would codify a few things that have been happening since the fiscal year 26 budget was initiated or was approved by you, and then some other items also including the creation of the Division of Architecture and Construction Management, the name change of the Compliance Division to Urban Services, an updated description of the powers, responsibilities, and requirements for the city architect. Additionally, while not included in this code amendment, there is a possible city code amendment that you may consider initiating a legislative intent to support. This has been a city council interest. There has been a city code interest in codifying the name change of the city and county building to City Hall. The current name has caused confusion regarding the building's purpose. The name change would lead to better aligning the name with its function and use.
You're welcome. Anyways, go ahead.
Yes. The mayor recently initiated this name change and it is now being incorporated in several locations. Public Services plans to present the name change proposal to the Use and Conservancy Committee. If the committee provides positive feedback, the administration will identify all the city code sections that require updates, including Title 15 and Title 2, and transmit recommendations to council for consideration. You may consider a possible legislative intent with language included in the policy questions and discussion section if you would like. That I'll turn over to Jorge.
So quick note. Thank you, Jorge. We for a little while now with the administration and the mayors wanted to consolidate the name. They made some good changes on that, but we still have in the ordinances this wrong title. So I wanted to make sure that from when we're approving ordinances that we changing this to the correct name. But because of timing, we are going to let this one go. And keep the city county building in the language of this resolution. This ordinance. But the intent will be that we change this for good. So people looking for the county don't come here ever. So that's the hope. Anyways, Jorge, your time. Sorry for that.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. I'm here basically to answer any questions that you may have. The summary that Kate provided included basically all of the items that we wanted to hit in this text amendment. There are two sections of code, 2.08 and 2.39. And those are basically reflecting, as Kate mentioned, how we are managing administratively the department, and also a few functions that ever since fiscal year 26 were left in the department, particularly the Architecture and Construction Management Division. So for those that were not here last fiscal year, what occurred was the engineering division was split. Everything that has to do with the right-of-way and construction in the right-of-way, that group is managed by the city engineer, and it was moved to the Community and Neighborhoods Department. Whereas everything construction related outside of the right-of-way, meaning buildings, parks, everything that is not roads, from the curb back, that is managed by the city architect. And we are defining that in the text amendment, and that function remained in public services. So we're basically just clarifying what occurred last year and ensuring that is described in code. No additions, simply just stating the way we are handling right now. In regards to section 2.39, which refers to the Conservancy and Use Committee, it is correct. The title itself is City and County Use and Conservancy Committee, and it defines how that committee should be structured. And it mentions multiple times, refers to this building as the city and county building. And so in addition to that section of code, there are other parts of city code that still mention city and county building. And that's the part that it will take a little bit of time to do those redlining and propose those changes. But the first step that we wanted to consider in the administrative side is presented to the board, right? Which they are, they function in an advisory capacity, and it's important for us to consult them in major changes like this. The next meeting is scheduled for September, I can tell you right now, it's the third Monday of the month. So we will put that in the agenda and certainly be back with you with their feedback. So any questions that you have, happy to.
Councilman Warden.
I'm very, very in favor of any effort to consistently rename this building City Hall. I just think that we should, for the sake of the public, make things as clear as possible. I think especially with the county relocating, it's one thing if you have to get in the wrong place and you have to go down to 21st South. It's another if you have to go to Midvale. But aside from that, I really want to move forward with City Hall. I hope that the board will be in support of that because I know it's probably going to take some budget. There's still some lettering on the building. There's still probably other areas, but I think it's worth it to have clarity for the public about where they should go when they need to address their local governments. So I'm very in favor of this. I've been on like a personal crusade about this for many years, so would love to see this move forward. Thanks.
I know that you wanted to make there's a lot of important changes you're making in this ordinance, and so thank you for that. I have, are there additional costs associated with the division, the compliance division, or changing to urban services?
No budget impacts at all.
Okay, we're not gonna start peeling labels out of cars or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not a huge fan of that urban services either as a name, but it's an administrative thing, so that's not for me to say that. But generally, I am support, and I'm excited to clarify for the public what this building is about and what it's not about. I don't want us to recarve the stones. That's the only thing I don't want us to do. But there are some stones over there that said City County building.
They're not carved.
They're not. Oh, really? Okay. Chris.
I'm doing some work on my own.
So someone check the cameras. Chris is climbing the building.
It's cute that you think that they would let you do that anyway.
But in general, I'm excited to ensure that when people are Googling, even with the map, they can actually find the correct building. Thank you, Jorge. Thank you. Council members, we're going to have to take another break because.
Oh, are we good? Okay, right. Okay.
So yes, so we're going to have to take a break. We're going to have to take a break until.
No, they're good to go.
Oh, they're good to go? Oh, okay. Well, that's confusing. Listen, Roland, we're going to move on to item number 8, informational item, which is Select City's Emergency Diversified Response Programs. Alison Roland, Council Policy Analyst at the table. Andrew Johnston, Senior Advisor. Megan Jewell, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the first of a planned series of briefings on the elements of the city's diversified response approaches to public safety. Since 2016, the Council has supported the creation of new types of responses to public safety challenges and emergencies. One reason is that the fire and police departments have been facing changes in their work. Specifically, there are more calls from or related to people who are in crisis and have nowhere else to turn. In many cases, these are people who also are experiencing homelessness, mental illness, addiction, or some combination of these. Another reason is that diversified responses can provide more effective and efficient alternatives to mobilizing traditional fire and police resources. And the diversified response teams within these departments can provide specialized and ongoing assistance to help community members find the resources they need. Finally, the diversified response units in other departments help mitigate some of the unintended side effects that homelessness, untreated mental illness, and addiction present for other city residents. So there's a lot to talk about. Working with Megan in the mayor's office, we decided to concentrate the first briefing in this series on an overview of the diversified response programs, and then begin with more detail on the fire and police department's roles. So we're starting today with the diversified response units that are characterized in the transmittal as emergency responses. And we anticipate future briefings that'll focus on the other 4 teams in non-emergency or diversified responses. So I will turn it over to Megan and Andrew to tell us all about it.
Thanks, Allison. First up,
sorry, really quickly, while they're getting started, just wanted to make sure the council members all saw this handy sheet. So there's going to be lots of acronyms thrown at you, so just have your sheet ready.
So yeah. I think, Andrew, sorry for interrupting you. We are very excited to having these briefings because it's almost like we always talking about this in the context of the budget. And I was hoping, and I thank you for your team and on the administration side to putting time aside for briefing us, but also for the community, right, to understand all the things that the city does. But I think it's important for us to really understand how this whole thing works. And many times we're talking in the context of the budget, and I don't get the time to dive in like I should. So I'm looking forward to this. So thank you.
Sure. We're going to try and be as fast or as slow as you'd like. I'll put it that way. That acronym list is going to be very important because if an acronym is put out here by us and you want to make sure it's clarified for the public or for you, just make sure you ask because there's a lot in there, obviously. Megan's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting today. She's done a ton of work on this, very, very knowledgeable. I appreciate you very much, Megan. We also have members of Emergency Dispatch 911, Fire Department, and Police Department here who can also answer questions from their department needs. We talked about dispatches here. And then Rachel Otto apologizes. She will be here, she hopes, at some point during the presentation. She'll also be present, Chief of Staff with the Mayor. The first 2 slides I'm going to talk about fairly quickly. Introduction, 4 basics. The basics are 4 out of the 8 diversified response programs, just police and fire emergency dispatch, and then dispatch protocol will be important here as well. Next slide. The key piece here is about consistency. Some of these programs have been around for a decade now, and they have evolved to do different needs as the city has seen different needs on the streets. But we try to be very consistent, and the next slide will show 3 pieces to that. First one is making sure we're focused on individuals in need, and that's one of the core attributes of this. There's a lot of people who have needs out there that we're trying to address more specifically. Have operational excellence, that means a lot of things, what you see up there, but also it means maximizing city resources and money to the budget question. Always trying to be very efficient and effective with those resources. And then focus on the greater community. That's about our public space, to address those public spaces most effectively. And Megan, I think up to you now.
Yeah, my turn now. All right, next slide. Okay, so let's start diving into the programs. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to best categorize these so we could chop it down to bite-sized elements as we go into it. And the best way I could find to do that was to split it between programs that were more traditional diversified response or more emergency response, so those coming from fire or police. And on the right side are programs that are a bit more supportive, supportive community services. So that might be less traditional diversified response, but it is what the community and business owners are asking us the most for. And so they're in response to that. Next slide. Okay, looking at that big timeline back to 10 years, I know that this is a bit small for you to see all the detail, and that's kind of the point. A lot has happened and a lot influenced the way that these programs were implemented and how they've evolved over time. As Andrew Johnston mentioned, we've had these programs since 2016, or at least the one in police, which is our social workers at the police department, and the medical response team in fire. Those have been around for 10 years. And the ones that are circled in black, those are the ones we're going to talk about today.
On this slide, the top line is about the point in time count that's done every year by the state, and that shows you the relative increases or decreases for those 10 years. And then below you'll see some major elements that have happened during that time. This is not an exhaustive list of everything that's happened in the homeless field.
Awesome. Next slide. Okay, and before diving in deeper, I do want to highlight some of the work we did through the budget. Last year, in fiscal year 26, we consolidated the Clean City team, which resulted in $1 million of savings in our Advantage Services contract. In fiscal year 27, Public Services proposed to make that reduction ongoing because they felt that they were able to be efficient in that way in an ongoing manner. And then we added some additional cuts that added up to about $2 million in the budget that you just reviewed. Next slide. Okay, back to the flow chart. To reorient us around the programs, we're going to talk about these four, starting with our social workers. Next slide. Okay, so first we're talking about, first acronym, or probably said a few already, CCT, the Community Connection Team. This is our social workers in the police department. These social workers are providing behavioral health support and crisis intervention. They also divert calls from 911 and co-respond with sworn police officers using trauma-informed tools. Next slide. Okay, they have 16 FTEs that are social workers, and they cover the entire city, working 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to midnight. And these are some of the primary call types. If you're following along with the transmittal we sent in, this would be on page 8, where we have a bunch more information, including some of the metrics that we collected from each of the teams. Next slide. All right, we have chat next, Community Health and Access Team. These are our social workers in the fire department. These social workers have been around since 2022, and they are paired with MRT, which is the medical response team in fire. I'll talk about that one in a minute. But they respond alongside MRT to offer social service care during medical or traumatic emergencies. Next slide. They have 7 FTEs, and the coverage there, Chat 5 is in Fire Station 5, Chat 6 in Fire Station 6, and I think Chat 1 is downtown in the PSB to respond from there. And then these are some of their primary call types. Next slide. Okay, so both of these programs are trying to divert calls from sworn officers and firefighters taking out full fire trucks and full teams. Both programs are using trauma-informed approaches, and they're filling gaps in case management services. What's a bit more unique to the Community Connection Team in police is that they're also doing de-escalation support compared to CHAT, which is primarily focused on emergency room diversion. They're trying to prevent people from going to the emergency room who could receive better care right at the site of the need. Also unique to the Community Connection Team is they're doing longer-term case management, and they're also leading the Project Connect pilot, which is one of the big outcomes from our Public Safety Steering Committee meetings that we've been having with a bunch of stakeholders across the county over the past year. CHAT, on the other hand, is doing shorter-term case management, and providing support for witnesses of traumatic events.
Really quickly, just for those that might not be aware, the public safety plan came out of a legislative ask. Was it
It was a year
full
and a half ago.
a year and a
Yeah.
half ago. And Project Connect focuses on the top 50 users of the public safety system, where the city kind of tries and connects deeply with those people to help them not utilize the system. Is that the right way to say? I mean, I'm probably
You're
giving it
correct.
all its due.
So the 50 individuals were based off of interactions with Salt Lake City Police Department over the previous 12 months. That's where that list came from. And then 2 social workers from the police social work team began doing that full time as their job. So there wasn't a new group sort of hired to do this. And now that's been going on for a year and a half. We have some good outcomes from that. We can talk through that separately, perhaps, if that's helpful for you all. I could also say that based on the success of that, the state legislature did, through Office of Homeless Services, appropriate money to expand that program this year, and the police department's working on that currently.
Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you, Chair. I think this might be connected to my question, which was, under what conditions does the CCT provide that long-term case management? Is it just Project Connect individuals? Is it, how do you decide who receives this long-term case management?
I'm going to ask Christina Zaido to come up here.
Good afternoon. Christina Zaido, Director of Behavioral Health Services for Salt Lake City Police Department. I oversee our social work team as one of my responsibilities with the department. And in terms of meeting those longer-term case management or therapy needs, it really is based upon need and then our availability. We know that there are a lot of gaps in insurance coverage for our community members or members who don't have access to care because of lack of insurance. And so with our severely and persistently mentally ill individuals that we serve regularly, we provide case management for them until we're able to get them connected to a system that's really holding and caring for them. So definitely a bridge support. In terms of the trauma therapy we do, it's very similar. So if we have a community member who needs a couple of sessions until they can get into a longer-term care therapeutic relationship, we'll provide that. If they're not going to have access to longer-term care because of whatever their individual or family circumstances are, we can also help stabilize them and make sure that they don't continue into crisis, because we know early intervention really stops the revolving nature of crisis response.
Councilmember Petro.
Is there a way, if someone's with us longer term, they're going to be intercepting with other entities across this? I mean, the most basic one feels like the court system at the very least. Is there a way that we are coordinating, especially with other state agencies, but also with other county and publicly funded agencies, to make sure that the case management that we're offering is not only not redundant, but is the most appropriate out of all that's available to that person?
I have to push harder. That's an excellent question. I really appreciate that. We do have an interdisciplinary community spanning care coordination team that we do for the, that is separate from Project Connect. So Project Connect is very resource, case management, care coordination focused. For our diversified response team, where we are seeing, oftentimes the same individuals who are having issues for a long period of time and providing care for them, we are working with all of the other community providers to understand which systems they're intersecting with, where they've successfully connected for services previously, and coordinating care with them so that we don't have duplicative services, so that we don't have gaps in communication around needs. The coordination of that team is very much on the behavioral health side of things. It doesn't intersect with the court system in the way that Project Connect care coordination does. But it is a system where we can bring in other community members to make sure that that individual we're serving is really getting what they need to reduce their trauma.
Generally, fair to say, generally, if an individual is struggling outside, say right now, if they're in a program, the program will oftentimes provide a case management part to it. If they're not in a program, they probably don't have case management because there's not sort of floating case management in the community like that these days. What happens with the police department is they'll sort of see, I know this person over many, many months, over and over again, they're calling 911, they're in crisis. So the police department will say it's in our best interest to try and stabilize them ourselves while we try and get them into a program that would have their own case management. Is that fair to say? So it's sort of self-serving some way for the police department to make sure that it's decreasing the crisis stuff. But also, we just don't have, sort of, generally speaking, floating case managers in the entire sort of valley just helping people through the system. That's something that I think ideally we'd love to have, but is really program-based at this point.
So then one of our primary goals here is making sure that the judicial branch of the city has what it needs to keep up. And so one of the LDA requests was that they need social workers. And so if you're seeing these people, I'm assuming LDA it's a likely collaborator on the list of people who are on this top 50. And so are we able to mitigate expenses elsewhere in the city budget? I'm not looking to shortchange. I was a case manager, believe fully in it, but I do want to mitigate the redundancies, especially as we're working double and triple time to make sure that, dimes do the work of dollars, to make sure that everyone's resourced well. Does this case management help with that, alleviating that need later in the pipeline?
Potentially. I think we are able to bring different resources to the table oftentimes, and the LDA's social work team is probably one of our closest collaborators. Outside of the chat team, we work with those teams continually. We probably talk to them several times a day, honestly. And so sometimes it's a matter of who's going to hold the individual at what point in their journey. But part of that collaboration meeting really is saying, okay, LDA, they're in Project Rio, we're keeping them with you, and we'll let you know if we run into them or if they're coming to us for additional needs. They are now yours. Okay, VOA HOP. You have been working with this person and have had a very successful relationship with them. They're yours. We will let you know if we run into them, but you're holding them. And so there's so many people with so many needs in the community that we just functionally need to reduce overlap because we can't get to everyone and help everyone. So I think we really have created a pretty functional, not overlapping but collaborating system. One of the challenges that always comes up is communication in silos. That coordination meeting reduces a lot of those, in addition to our excellent relationships with all of those community providers.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're about to transition away from the social workers, so any other questions we want to pause on? Of course, we can come back, but just want to open that door.
Okay. I guess not really much of a question, but there are obviously two different tools, and one of the things that I think it wasn't clear for me for a while, that when someone calls 911 how do you know which one to send, and how do you decide, okay, we're going to send the chat team or we're going to send the other team? I think that will be important for the community to know, because there are differences, as you highlighted here, and you also put it in the slide that there's only a 6% overlap when you're sending both teams, which is quite fascinating. So the majority is not getting both teams. So I would love a little more information on that.
Yeah, we received that question in advance and we're able to put a little bit in here. I'm not sure if it'll go to quite enough detail, but I feel like it'll help us know where to dig in further. But I learned a lot about how those calls get pathed, and I think I have a better understanding, and we'll get into that after going through the other two teams. That sounds good.
Just for some clarity on the overlap, if we do come out into the same call, as professionals, we have the conversation about who stays for the call or who leaves, or if it's a large traumatic event, we're both there and we're bringing all of our resources to bear because we need that many resources. But we're very cognizant of the amount of work and demand that the city needs. And so in that 6%, very, very few are the responses where we need both teams. And the preponderance of the time is that we're clearing one team or the other, depending on what the issue is and who's best suited to manage it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next slide. We're going to move to more of the safety and medical work, so outside of social work here, starting with PCRT, which is the Police Community Response Team. These are non-sworn public safety officers, and it's a program that was implemented in 2023. They divert low-priority calls away from sworn officers, freeing up sworn officers for more dangerous calls coming to 911. So basically responding to anything that doesn't require a sworn officer. Next slide. They have 16 FTEs, and they respond citywide during the hours that the police department determines that they are needed most. You can see that there's different hours throughout the week, and that's where they've determined the need is. And these are some of the call types that they'll be sent out on. Next slide. All right, on to the next, the last one. So last, hopefully, acronym for the night, MRT, the Medical Response Team, and Fire. This, like the police social workers, is the other one that's been around since a decade. These are paramedics who are using smaller vehicles to answer medical calls faster and just easier. So they are responding to everything aside from the priority one calls.
And I'll just share just some budget context of the origin of the medical response team. It was actually the council really challenging the fire department because of how expensive fire vehicles are and how hard they are on not just our roads, but the environment, and how expensive they are to replace and expensive to service. The council at the time challenged the fire department to come up with a way to respond to medical calls because the vast majority of calls to the fire department are medical. And so credit to the fire team for coming up with this program because I think it's shown to be really successful and has saved the city a ton of money and emissions.
To put context, in 2016 when it began, there was a big shelter on Rio Grande Street downtown, and that was the only shelter, along with the Wiegand Center, St. Vincent de Paul across the street, and the 4th Street Medical Clinic. So everything was concentrated in that really core downtown area. So it really, if you can imagine 1,000 people who are using those services every day and trying to get all the vehicles in multiple times per day, you can see sort of the need. Now, the spread out nature now is still useful that way, but you can kind of imagine what it was like in 16 versus today too.
All right, next slide. MRT has 17 FTEs, and they are available approximately 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday. As I mentioned before, they will co-respond with chat when chat is staffed. And as I mentioned before as well, they respond to all calls that are lower than priority one. And they will sometimes also respond to priority one calls. They're just not the primary dispatch for those ones. Next slide. All right, so these teams are a little bit different, easier to see the difference between them there, but I'm still gonna contrast here a little bit. They are both focused on call diversion from sworn officers and firefighters. They are trying to enable faster responses for all call priority levels, and the data shown in the report that we transmitted indicates that we are seeing faster responses both in high priority calls and low priority calls when these teams are in service. And also the efficiency piece, mobilizing fewer or less costly resources to solve the same problems was part of both of these teams. What's unique to PCRT is they're doing more incident traffic management work, but they can support both police and fire in emergencies. And fire has actually expressed that how much they appreciate the support of PCRT when there's a major fire to keep traffic cleared out and make sure that they have space to do the work they need to do. What's unique to MRT is doing more health treatment work and decreasing our environmental impact with those smaller vehicles. Okay, now we're going to dive into 911.
Sorry,
Yeah, that's perfect.
I'm just trying to ask the questions as they're coming up. I saw for the MRT and for the chat team, both referenced some pretty incredible statistics about 100% warm handoff, and this was in the administrative transmittal. Can you talk about what does a warm handoff look like and what comes after that?
I could, but I think Assistant Chief Milne would do a better job.
Okay. Good afternoon. Assistant Chief Chris Milne. I'm overseeing the medical division where our MRT and chat live and provide services for that. So the question was about warm handoff. As was mentioned with our chat program, we're not as involved in long-term case management, but that warm handoff would be to whatever appropriate service that person needs. That could be elderly services, that could be substance abuse services, homeless services. So whatever the social worker decides is the appropriate need for that person, they would do everything that they could to make sure that handoff happens.
Sorry for the follow-up. So is it like, here's the phone number to call? Is it like, I'm going to walk with you down to get to this place? What does a warm handoff look like?
It is a combination of all of that, right? Because some people are more willing to take those services, others are not. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting that person's cell number for follow-up, which our chat from the PSB can do. Sometimes it is a handoff to other community resources. Sometimes it's up to the ER and helping them get into the appropriate service at the ER or mental health facilities. So really a combination of all of those. Whatever that person is willing to accept and take steps towards that service, that's what we're trying to facilitate.
I'll say, in general, when we say a referral, it can mean anything. Sometimes it's electronic, where I've met with you and you say you should go do this, and they put it into the electronic system, and then you're supposed to show up at some point or email, which doesn't work for a lot of these folks, obviously. A referral could also be, well, here's the card, go call them and they'll help take care of you, which is also a referral. Generally, and that could be a part of it as well, but I think the effort oftentimes in their teams is a warm one, which is face-to-face as much as possible, phone call to phone call, whatever it is to sort of talk to the individual, talk through the situation, physically get them there perhaps. I think that's all part of that concept, as much as they're able to do that. Is that fair?
Very, very much so. Additionally, sometimes it doesn't happen right there, but with follow-up, you can further facilitate that warm handoff, maybe at another time when they're more open to accepting that help.
Any more questions? I think that might be it, right? Is that, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So I appreciate this overview, and yes. So I guess I think a couple of things. So one is that I have been here for several years, and I still sometimes struggle with the acronym pieces. And I think that that's also like noted not just as like a council member, but also as members of the public. And so I would wonder like if there's opportunities to be able to maybe like, whether it's a graphic or, you know, looking at the naming conventions, just to make it like that much more clear on like what is the purpose? What does this group do? And then that way, when you interact and engage with them, you know who to thank, because I think that sometimes also that does get confusing where you're like, well, I receive services, but I don't know from who, and we do. I have a lot of residents who want to be able to provide their gratitude related to having different entities come out. So I think the messaging / communication side of this has an opportunity for a little more clarity, because the other side of that is that when I look at a lot of these pieces, I also think to myself, like, how many folks know? How many folks know? Because it's not usually by just the basis of the triage of the incident. It's not something that's going to be on the front page of, the Salt Lake Trib, or at the top of your screen or scroll bar. And, yet it's such an important need in terms of being able to help our citizens and our residents understand that we have more than just the fire department explicitly as you think about it, learning about it in elementary school, and the police department, when you learn about those concepts. And I think kind of broadening that understanding and education would be, for me at least, is really important for my neighbors to understand, because there are a lot of things that are in the media right now that can lead folks to questioning, like, where are my taxpayer dollars going and what types of services are we providing to address different needs that I'm seeing. And so I think that, as we look at whether it's the naming and the communications aspect, and or just helping our residents kind of understand how the suite of services complement each other, I think only benefits us as a city to be able to then, support both an understanding of what we have, but also future conversations about resourcing, because I'll use one of my examples that keeps coming up, which is, when I'm talking to people about the opportunity to expand to an additional chat team, as soon as I say that to any of these wonderful individuals, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But when I talk about it at the dinner table or with neighbors or residents or while I'm out on a walk, people are like, what's chat? Like, I don't know what that is, and for me, I want that to be something where folks know, like, they know what that resource is, they know what it means and what they're doing in our city and how it supports the overall ecosystem of how we're treating people with humanity in their moments of highest need. So thank you. I think this was so valuable. And to like the 8 people online who are watching, yes, that's a start. But I would love to see that, taken a step or 2 further so that we have a broader vocabulary for folks to be aware of how comprehensive the city approaches.
Just thank you for that perspective, and we can certainly do more. We have had some really good coverage in the news lately, and our community relations division can do more on that, but definitely noted about your perspective and how we can get that out, get that word out, and promote that team.
This is why, having this deeper discussion about the work that, and this is one, this is going to be a series of presentations. So, I mean, understanding the level of work that the city is doing. Also, it just amazes me that we're talking about a portion of the things that the city does on this topic, and we're talking about almost 60 people right now. Almost 60 people are working day in and day out on mitigating this crisis in our streets. And that is just a portion of the other tools that we haven't talked about it yet. So to me, when many of our neighbors talk about what is Salt Lake City doing, we should be able to quickly say, this is what we're doing, and our taxpayers are actually, paying for this. The Salt Lake City taxpayers are trying to solve a statewide crisis and we are trying to do it with our own dollars. And I'm so incredibly thankful for all the people in the city team that are working so hard on trying to mitigate this crisis in our streets. And I'm thankful to know this information. I often, unfortunately, and maybe it happens to you, that someone will call me and says, I don't know where to go. I have a family member that is struggling with something. And I sometimes don't know where to go myself, right? Like I don't know where to call them. I don't even know who to ask. So I hope that the information could be more easily accessible for the community to know. And I do appreciate the time that you guys put together to put this together. And one of the questions that always comes out during the budget is about data and metrics, and I would like to know, with all of these teams, including the ones that we're not talking about today, that they are somehow under the purview of the city. Are we sharing information? Are we using one system or multiple systems to track cases or interactions, or how is that data being managed from the city side? And does the state know that we're doing this? I guess is my question sometimes.
I think my understanding is they're not tracking on systems together. Do you have more?
Yeah, so this is a big discussion, probably more than we have a few minutes here for, but I think it'd be a good discussion to have with everybody. The fire department has a tracking system and data. Police department has a tracking system and data, and 911 works with both of those, I believe. The social workers, depending on the situation, will track stuff in their respective database, but not necessarily with the statewide database. So the statewide database for, say, homeless management information systems doesn't necessarily include this information. When they go to the hospital, for a lot of these teams, that may be the destination for a lot of folks. The hospital has its own tracking system, and if they bill Medicaid, it's a tracking system there, and the hospital proprietary track. You see how this kind of works now? So yes, it is a great point. We would love a system that would have everything integrated. I think a lot of what we do in the city is actively manage our own internal systems to provide this to external partners as we need, but it's not necessarily a forward-facing system, and there's nothing that I'm aware of that takes everything into account for the whole system. Now, the Lifeman work at the county is talking about that issue itself and really taking that on to some extent. It's a really big ask, but that'd be a great place to start focusing some energy to make sure that we're all integrated outside of the city as well.
I think I heard, from the team on some of the requests from the Lifeman group, that is one of the goals, is trying to make sure that the databases and the data from, I'm not talking necessarily, they were not necessarily talking about the city, they were talking about all of the other tools talking to each other, which I think will help understand the problem and identify the solutions better. Councilmember Petro.
I know when they go to the hospital, there are HIPAA protections that make sharing data more difficult, and I'm a heavy advocate for people who are in crisis or need our help should not have their dignity compromised. So I wouldn't want anything that puts pictures of people out there or anything. Sure. But are there other barriers to, is it a systemic issue just because of the siloed nature in which these things kind of popped up, that we don't have a way to share data, or are there other barriers to us being able to share data first within the city and then with other agencies outside of us?
Well, to make some really big generalizations and statements here that I may regret later, generally speaking, data will follow funding and getting paid for a service, right? And so if you want to get a lot of robust data, you got to find out who's billing for what service and where and how they're doing it. With a lot of the folks we're talking about who interact with these diversified response groups, they're probably Medicaid eligible or have Medicaid. When they get to a provider, like a hospital, the provider is doing a service and billing Medicare for that service, so there's some accountability there. Each hospital system is different. University of Utah for Medicaid is a Medicaid provider, Intermountain Health for their system. If you end up at a small provider, it could be the county system or through the state as well. So you can get a sense, there's proprietary about what software they're using and how they're billing it, who they're billing for. And then to your point, everyone wants to make sure that they are safe from legal issues. All of these protections were meant to protect somebody, but not necessarily restrict access to care. So even healthcare providers can, for continuity of care, share information between themselves. And they do a lot, but it does mean some paperwork and it does mean some transfer of information. So the system is not as seamless as probably most people would like. That's why it's a very big lift for many years to try to take on all those systems together and figure out, are you going to share a common system, a common language? Are you going to agree to the legal parameters of this so we don't sacrifice personal dignity and safety for continuity of care across different systems? And then when we talk about trying to get our first responders integrated into that, that's a whole nother level, right? Because they're not necessarily healthcare workers in that sense. And so some healthcare agencies may be a little dubious about allowing police social workers in their systems and fire, et cetera, even though they may see there's some benefit potentially. So there's a lot of that you have to work through over time.
Yeah, just additional support and context. So like the entire state of Utah does not have a single student information system across all of K-12. Like we've yet to be able to achieve that, and that is a single government entity that oversees that. So I appreciate that the lift is large. I guess my takeaway and my support for continuing the conversation is that there were so many times where we were this close to doing it. And it was one of those, nope, the scope's too large. Oh, it's going to cost too much money. Man, it's just too many partners, connecting on different things. And the further away from those moments we got, the bigger the problems got. So we have to start somewhere. And even if it's like, chipping away at, the major iceberg that's floating, to me, those are valuable efforts in terms of ultimately creating a pathway towards solution that better serves the individuals. One of the most interesting quotes that I can never take out of my head from the K-12 space is that students switching schools is the equivalent of secondhand smoke to individuals in terms of their ability to receive the services they need and for the individuals who serve them to have the information they need to be able to make those services happen. And so anything that helps clear out the smoke, I'm here for, and just appreciate the city leaning into those where it's possible.
When I just talked about the 30,000 foot level of the systems and the complexities of those systems on an aggregate, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. One of the things about Project Connect, which we did intentionally, was with no money, we took 2 full-time positions from the police department and they volunteered to move over to this job, separate from their social work jobs. And we said, figure it out. These are 50 people we know somewhat a little bit about. And we need somebody to go in and on an individual basis for these 50 people figure things out. And that meant that those social workers went into those systems and said, I need to advocate here and here and here and share information between these entities. And they're already getting case managed here, so I need to make sure that they are touching base with it. That on a micro level is what the Connect team is doing. If you can take the lessons learned from that, number one, they're helping those individuals navigate those systems more effectively and get better care. 2, if you can take the learning from those, their interactions, and they can point out some gaps and things that could be done better, that's informing the county discussion and the state discussion. So we use Connect for that reason as well. Sometimes it's easier to go on an individual basis to point out the system than the whole system at once.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I believe Megan has another section of her presentation, just so you know.
I was going to just, when we are quiet, just move ahead on the slides.
No, this has been great. I feel like lots of great questions, all super relevant. Next slide. All right, so digging into that dispatch call routing question. Let's see. Dispatchers use a CAD system, computer-aided dispatch, to route all of their calls, and the CAD is programmed to send calls either down the fire or to PD, and then they funnel down to the different teams from there based on established protocols that are created in collaboration between the departments and 911. Okay, Next slide, and we can come back around. I hope that the slides help bring clarity as we go through. Let's see. All right, so talking specifically about fire, working with dispatch, I've already talked about this a little bit, but MRT is the primary dispatch for all medical calls except priority 1, and chat is typically responding with MRT, but is automatically dispatched for this list of call types. And something interesting we've talked about while developing this report was the support that chat provides for families or witnesses of a cardiac arrest, which is apparently quite traumatizing to witness and experience, especially with a loved one. And so I just wanted to point that out because it's a space that they have kind of unique access to support people. Next slide. All right, for police call routing, PCRT is automatically dispatched on calls that do not require a sworn officer. I know that is way too small to be able to read it. I had listed some of them earlier. I just wanted to show how many types of calls they could cover, and I'm happy to send an easier to read version of that if you'd like. Oh, there we go. That's awesome. Thank you. All right, and then the community connection team, the police social workers, they are not automatically dispatched right now. And I learned while putting this together that the police call needs are a bit more unclear often than the fire calls. So when something goes down fire for medical reasons, they've indicated very clear that that's the need. When police is sent out, it could be trespassing, suspicious activity, or someone hasn't answered their door and someone's worried about their well-being. And then also, what a dispatcher hears can be quite different from what an officer experiences on a scene. And so police relies on that officer identifying a need for a social worker before dispatching the police social workers. So that's a little bit of the why there, and I thought that was helpful to better understand.
Councilwoman Carlson.
Yeah, I think that's a helpful distinction for me. And I guess I'm wondering, like, what would trigger an officer to request a CCT response? And what does training look like across all officers to let them know that this is a resource that exists?
So training across all officers, our social workers spend a bunch of time at the academy. We run the 40-hour crisis intervention training process with all of our officers who come through our academy and also our lateral transfer officers. There are definitely officers who use the resource more than others. But any type of social service need can elicit a social work response. Any type of trauma where there's emotional distress, we get called out on those frequently. Oftentimes when there's an issue where DCFS may become involved, that is also a space that we're in frequently, helping manage that and giving a civilian social work response, especially when interacting with children. Sometimes cops are really cool. Sometimes it can feel kind of scary. So our officers are really great at kind of reading the scene. Establishing safety is our primary concern for the individuals involved in the crisis and for our personnel. And then pairing that response. The other unique piece that I don't think we really captured in this presentation is our social workers know the people who call, right? We know all of the frequent 911 callers. And so our social workers, if they're not out in the field, will actually watch the call log and just proactively pull calls off the call log and say, oh, okay, I know this caller. Don't send patrol. I'm getting on the phone with them to see if I can manage them because they're schizophrenic and always suicidal, right? But we're really good at safety planning and talking them down, and we can establish safety without even an in-person response oftentimes. And so that's a huge cost savings to the system where we can manage a lot of crisis just telephonically, come up with a plan to go out and visit with the community member when things are a little more stable or when they need additional intervention. And we can always circle back and pull in patrol or a medical response if needed.
I mean, this, makes me wonder about the regular training for officers, because that's a conversation we had related to other items. I wonder if if the department can highlight how often they do this, and if it's mandatory or not. Because to me, the more used to that our officers know that these resources are there, the better will be for everybody.
So the CIT training is mandatory for everyone who comes through the academy, and that's a full training on behavioral health, developmental disabilities, different presentations. This person might be having a medical event as opposed to being on a substance. Here are ways to vet these things out and establish safety. A lot of grounding tools and basic, cognitive behavioral tools that we can use to de-escalate situations. And that process all happens in tandem with our social workers, so they're also developing those relationships. Ongoing training happens several times a year for the officers who are assigned to our CIT division that is one of the co-response opportunities for our social workers. And so we have 3 dedicated detectives there and a sergeant over that unit. They help manage more of our frequent callers, who tend to be a little bit more dangerous, where we're not just going to send a civilian response out. We have some safety concerns. And then we're working on integrating into trimester training annually or every other year, ongoing CIT reboots. The standard, I believe, at the state is, I think it's 4 hours every 3 years, which is not a high bar. Everything that we do involves de-escalation and safety management of a scene. And so officers are already getting that. We're not maybe tracking what qualifies as those trainings all of the time, but we can look at training rosters and say, okay, you've got de-escalation, you've got mental health stabilization training, those types of things.
I think that's something interesting to me, to make sure that there is more of that, regular training beyond post-academy, right?
Yep.
And that, we highlight, because certainly even from our side, we may be putting more resources into different tools, right? And that changes, right? Because there might be more opportunities to connect people with the right response, I guess. So I would love to identify some more of that information. I think the community also expects to know that, I think that it builds trust even more with our good frontline officers, to know that that's part of their training or regular training. So thank you.
Thank you.
Keep going.
I think there's just 2 more slides. We're almost done.
Okay, you can do it.
Next slide. All right, so this is talking about when protocol needs to change. 911 hosts a monthly users meeting with both police and fire to discuss any issues which could help push for change if it's needed. But I learned that the fire department is probably changing protocol a bit more frequently. Dispatch has shared that they have a wider range of resources to dispatch, and therefore the range of needs can be quite different based on call type, and they adapt over time to what they learn and might change protocol to better serve the call types as they see fit. They have a committee that brings updates to fire leadership that they want to make to protocol, and if it's approved by fire leadership, then they work with dispatch to adjust that protocol. The police department has a person who is a liaison and works directly with dispatch whenever issues are identified by the department. And then next slide, I believe just talks about next steps. Allison mentioned these as well, I think, but we can talk about the other 4 programs. We could talk about the guiding principles that we use to develop the metrics that we selected for measuring success in the report we transmitted. And we could dig into the data that's in the appendix of the report that is based on those 26 metrics. And that is all we have.
Thank you for the information. I'm looking forward to, dig into some of the data you sent us, and to highlight to the community the work that we do as a city. It's also impressive that you're tracking, the calls and how many interactions. I mean, that's useful for the community. I feel like that's something that should be regularly reported, should be, very widely known. Councilmember Young.
I just had one, I guess, additional question. In the case that, let's say, the routing happens, but then maybe extra people get notified that there's a challenge or a concern. Do we have a policy or a protocol or a recommendation on how, if we all show up and we're oh, okay, well, this team's got it, that we're allowing other resources to then be redeployed elsewhere? Does that make sense, kind of what I'm saying?
Yes, I'm not quite sure how to answer it, though. I think Christina hit on it a little bit in talking about if both social work teams are called out, and they would discuss what is best as the response. But
yeah, and I guess so the way I could see this happening, here's my scenario, Lisa, but would be, so let's say there's an incident and we have multiple people calling in, and the multiple people calling in are reporting different aspects of the incident. And then all of a sudden, all of our city teams get there and they're wait a minute, you're here, and so just how that transpires in terms of just being thoughtful about not overwhelming a situation and tying up city resources when there may be other needs.
this is so interesting. I'm sorry to jump in before you, but when I was over at dispatch watching, I just kind of sat and watched them do their job.
Yeah.
This happened where there was a whole group of people calling in. It was actually very scary sounding, and it sounded like everyone was quite scared. And I think 3 different dispatchers were on a call with a different person involved in an incident. And you can probably explain better what happens when this.
So our assistant, sorry, I am quiet. So I am Elizabeth Elka. I'm an assistant director with Salt Lake City 911. Our CAD system identifies duplicate calls. So if 3 different people are taking a call at the same address, they're going to get a notification that there is already a call made at that address. So we don't make multiple calls for the same thing. Typically, if we end up with chat and police social workers on scene at the same time, it's because the police department asked for social workers, and then the fire department sent a medical response team, and chat automatically is with them. It's not because both departments were requested.
Got it.
They're just always with the MRT if they're on duty.
Okay.
And then, like Christina said, they will decide amongst themselves who's going to take responsibility for that call. So
perfect.
I think that's how that usually
That's
happens.
helpful. Yes, thank you. Sorry, it was just a question I had, like related to how we're also not overwhelming a scene related to resources, just noting there's so many needs across the city. So.
I just wanted to quickly express my gratitude and thanks to you for putting this together, but because I know this took a long time, but also to everybody that's worked on all of these different response models. I remember reading about the community connection team starting in 2016, running in 2017, learning more about when the shelters were coming online and all of those challenges, to all of the things that we did in 2020 and since then. So it's feels very full circle for me, and I know that we still have a lot of work to do, but I really do believe that the success of the public safety plan and then the numbers that we're seeing of things coming down and improving are a result of this thing that we built, this system, and it really gives me a lot of confidence moving forward. So I want to thank everyone for their hard work, and definitely don't want to rest on our laurels, but this is, I think, a really cool thing. I'm proud to be a part of it.
Thank you. I know that they put a lot of work. Oh, yes, Rachel. They put a lot of work into putting this together, so thank you. Rachel.
Thank you so much, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I did just want to say thank you so much to the council. I think, we've obviously spent a lot of time with you on this, and though the programs that we're going to talk about both today and that we'll talk about in our next briefing seem somewhat disparate, I think, at least since 2020, the council's been a great partner with the mayor's office and just making sure that as we are, kind of developing these creative and nimble responses to what we're seeing on the street, that it has been grounded in the same values and the guiding principles that we've kind of brought to you each time. So, making sure that people are treated with dignity and they're getting the services they need, trying to make sure that our public spaces are clean and safe and welcoming. And then, of course, committing to ongoing efficiency and transparency and accountability for each of these programs. So thank you for being willing to go on this journey with us. And then, not to be duplicative, and thank you, Councilmember Wharton, for your gratitude to this team, but I just think these teams are doing really, really special and impactful work. And thanks for recognizing that. It's hard to put together in a way that looks cohesive across the board, but I also want to say thank you to Megan for spending a ton of time on this to try to bring it together and really highlight the work of, I think, these really important teams. So thanks for giving us this time.
No, and I thank you for putting together that. I hope that document is shared wide, because it is an incredible amount of work that the city is doing. Our taxpayers are supporting this work, and what sometimes we hear about the frustrations. I know that we're doing a lot to mitigate, to mitigate this crisis. So it's very impressive to see how all of this works together. In some of the conversations that the county and Andrew can help me with this, but they were talking about 911 scripting. And the Lichman group is asking for the city to join into a new script, and I would love to know if we know about this, or if we need to connect more people about what the county is asking from all the other dispatch agencies to do.
So what do you mean by scripting?
There is maybe this is where Andrew can help. Maybe this is why.
So one of the Leifman Group recommendations was to include mental health screening, or a screening question about mental health crises in 911 dispatch work, and so that's what the county's talking about, and integrating that into the upfront. When you're talking to a crisis situation, about how do you identify that as the core issue?
Okay, yeah, we do, if we believe there is a mental health crisis occurring, we do have protocols for trying to get information about what level of crisis are they in. Are they a danger to themselves or others? Is it an active danger? And if it's not, we can connect them with MCOT. We can let MCOT triage further while we stay on the phone. Yeah. They will say if they need us to send a response, or if they think they can handle it. So we don't have any scripted questions for that, but we do have procedures for how to handle those.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, how, why the reasoning of asking, other agencies that are doing this to join into this script and to have that as part of their dispatch. So I might have to collect more information from that side, and then connect with 911 to see, why we should, and what you guys think about this. But it's some of the recommendations, and they're coming back to the city, and I'm trying to figure out where I need to send them.
Mr. Chair, if I might, so all the working groups that the Lifeman Group, or that the county is standing up to implement the Lifeman Group recommendations, we are ensuring that city staff is, appropriate city staff is in each of those. And so maybe part of this goes to the difference between, I think, VEC and how we dispatch. And so there is, our systems aren't identical, but I feel really confident that our system is attuned with what we, where we need to be going with these mental health calls. So if there's anything else you want to add about the differences between VEC and how we dispatch, go for it.
We work pretty closely with VEC, so and also our medical director for Salt Lake City 911 and VEC is the same person. So if there's a recommendation that we use certain language when we're handling calls for mental health services, we will also incorporate that into ours because we're all operating under the same medical director. So if that recommendation comes down, we would both do it. We use the same protocol system, VEC and us, for handling medical calls. We have our own sets, if that makes any sense, because Salt Lake City has a more tiered response to medical calls than VEC currently does. So but it's the same system. We all use APCO for our emergency medical dispatch. So if there's a recommended change by Dr. Youngquist, we will make the change the same as VEC does. So.
That's helpful. Thank you. Sorry for it just popped in my head. We were 911, and I was like, I heard about this.
One more question, sorry, Mr. Chair. Have we taken this presentation on the road to show? Okay, I would love it. I mean, if we can share this with the State Office of Homeless Services or other individuals to kind of show the work that we're doing, and I would think even policing groups would be interested in our non-sworn officer responses. I know that those calls can be, those lower priority calls are still important, but it frees up officer time. So I would love it if we can proactively share some of this information. Thank you.
I think the community councils should also be exposed to this.
That's good. Yeah, that'd be great too.
This is amazing. I mean, that was a lot of work to put together, so might as well show it off because it's quite impressive. So thank you. I think that concludes the presentation. Thank you so much for this. Thank you. Thank you. I don't see Ben Ruskin. Are you here? No. Are we? We are ahead of time. Have we contacted? No, huh?
Taking a break.
So let's.
Or we could do the other items of which I don't.
There's nothing. So this is the last item. So let's do this. Let's take a 10-minute break. Yes.
Do you want me to text?
Yes. 10-minute break. welcome back. We are going to hear item number 9 now, which is the board appointment for the Planning Commission. And we're going to welcome Ben Raskin to the table right here. And you can tell us why do you want to join the Planning Commission. Push the button so the microphone is on, has a green light on. And then, yeah, tell us briefly why you want to join the Planning Commission.
Absolutely. Make sure this is on.
Yes. Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for having me here today. 3 years ago, I had the privilege of coming before this board and speaking with you in regards to being a member of the Civilian Review Board. I spent 3 years working on that committee, and it was absolutely instrumental in revitalizing my love of both our community, the work our public servants do, law enforcement, and opportunities that we can make improvements in both public safety and the general perception of use of force in the state, or rather in the city. My service with the Civilian Review Board ends at the end of this month, and speaking with Council Member Young, she said there's an opportunity for the City Planning Committee, which would be a chance to kind of like pair a relationship pair this love that I have of both our city, the buildings, the people who live here, and basically how we have this this relationship between how we're building it for the future, but as well as preserving for the past. Before I go any further, I just want to make one really quick note. As I am leaving the Civilian Review Board, I wanted to bring to you guys' attention two very special individuals, Chief Investigator Tanya Richardson and Facilitator Christy Marcy. They're the ones that have been running the CRB, and the work they do makes them public servants extraordinary. And if you haven't had a chance to meet them, I would definitely make an opportunity to go talk to them and see the work that they are actually doing there. So anyway, I believe that the Planning Commission faces issues that are requiring balancing competing interests, studying the facts, and making decisions that we can both serve both the future and our current residents and our future residents. And I hope the skills that I've developed on the CRB will prepare me well for this responsibility. And I'd be honored to continue serving the people of Salt Lake City in this new capacity. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I appreciate this time with you.
Councilmember Young.
Oh my gosh, I could talk about Ben forever. So I think one of the things that I appreciate about Ben most, and I'll share with the other council members, is that your interests in the city are so diverse. And I think you've touched on many of those experiences and commitments already, and how you've shown up to represent and kind of serve the voice of your community. But whether you were reaching out to me about a park that was in your area, or chatting with me about some of the road construction and the impacts on businesses, talking about our needs in the public safety sector and how we are comprehensively addressing that, not just for Sugar House, but for the entire city. It has always struck me as something that is different than a lot of the other interactions I have, and it is that comprehensive and holistic view that I think will really benefit you in representing our community on the Planning Commission, is because yes, you are making decisions that are specific to land use and zoning, but that it's not just about a building, it's also about what that means to the greater community and considering that larger context as part of the process moving forward. So I could not be more excited to have you representing for our community, and I'm just very, very grateful for the professionalism and the dedication you have already shown the city, and that I know you will continue to do in this role.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your willingness to share your time and talents with the city. It really, not only from running for office, but also turning that energy into service to the city. So thank you for doing that. You are going to be placed on the consent agenda for tonight's meeting. You don't have to be there to. It's quite boring. We approve the consent agenda.
Well, I'm glad I lost the race then.
So you will be placed on the consent agenda, and the administration will reach out to you with next steps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Ben.
Awesome. Thank you.
So there's no report from me. Is there a report from you? No. No report from the vice chair. Is there a report and announcements from the executive director? No report and announcement from the executive director, and there's not There is no closed meeting, so this adjourns the meeting until 7 p.m. tonight. Thank you.